When an episode is so strong that it feels like a non-elimination is coming, it creates so much dissonance when someone actually does go home. The vibes were immaculate, from the cut of the challenge to the editing to the knockout performances of literally every single queen in the room, this spectacular runway as the kiss goodnight. The through line of the entire structure gave this feeling that this episode was not meant to result in someone going home. Even the style of challenge, the way that the scripts were distributed so evenly, the way that the judges were so complimentary, and they were quite literally splitting hairs to figure out who should be in the top and who should be in the bottom. And in my opinion, when you have to split hairs so finely just to determine a bottom three, I think that you're forcing a bottom placement at that point, and you should just make it a celebratory top two. I understand that there are episode budgeting issues. They probably couldn't just have a celebratory top two episode. But I wish there was some accommodation for that, because this entire episode left me feeling like someone should not have left. Hi, hello everyone, my name is Jer, and
you will be exterminated.
We are talking about season 3, episode 5 of Drag Race UK versus the World. Ooh. Black cherry Shasta, 3 cherries, Puerto Rican rum, 1 can of Coke. Global alliances are a funny thing. Kate says at the beginning that there was no way that 3 UK queens were gonna make it to the finale. But if I remember correctly, 3 Pinoy queens made it to the finale of Drag Race Elimination Royale, and it would have probably been 4 had production not stepped in and made sure that Suki made that finale. In a lot of these Versus the World seasons, there's not a lot of cohesion between the home country. Every now and again, there are small groups of people that have each other's backs, but Blue and Baga were kind of playing their own game. Tia Coffee was absolutely playing her own game. Rita was playing her own game, but in season 2, Lemon was playing hers as well. Drag Race Elimination Royale is really the only one where the home country aligned itself so tightly and ensured that all of them made it to the end. I think easily Kate, Sminty, and Zahira could have made it to the finale. I think that easily Kate, Sminty, and Zahira could have maybe tried to help each other get to the finale. I have a lot of opinions on how Zahira is being treated, but we'll get to that soon. Had Kate saved Sminty last week from having to lip sync, it would have created an interesting power dynamic going forward, because almost half of these queens would be from the home country. This week, the queens are tasked with performing in a Silent Hill, but that's not right. This week, the queens are tasked with performing in silent movie themed acting challenges where they'll be divided up into 2 groups, 1 of 4, 1 of 3. Something I have complained about in the Versus the World franchise is that the acting and comedy challenges are quite inflexible towards the ESL queens. They know their home language, they know their home humor, and sometimes those points of view don't always mesh very well with an English sensibility. Queens come in with a very specific set of reference points, and they miss out on the points that Rue and Co often get, and that can oftentimes be their downfall. So relying on something like silent film, where you don't have to do anything other than being physical, is so extremely kind, and it is exactly what I wanted to see. I'm so glad that they did this structure, and I hope that they incorporate this somehow into every version of Versus the World. Maybe clean up some elements of it, because there were some hokey parts. But I think that's a quirk of silent movies that I really enjoy. Both the scripts were pretty similar to each other, with the only exception of Group 2 got to break their silence like an early 2000s YouTuber and had a dialogue moment, which honestly was a bit immersion breaking for me personally. But it was funny in its own kind of a gaggy kind of a way. Overall, I liked this challenge, I liked the structure, and I think that everyone was solid. It's a straightforward acting challenge. There's very little way that you could possibly mess up on this. You punch up your physicality as much as possible, you create a character that's easy to recognize, and you translate that through your movement. And I think they all accomplished that. This episode had all the markings of a mid-season filler, because the stakes were generally pretty even, not extremely low, not extremely high. This is a solid top 7, and they all performed immaculately in not only the challenge, but the runway. I agreed with the bottom 2, even if I didn't necessarily agree with the process of how that happened. I am someone very much on the boat of judging teams, and I didn't really like that Zahira was pulled out of her group, seemingly out of nowhere, kind of in the same way that I felt like Serena was in the girl groups. If you are in the winning or high team, then you should by default be safe, unless you were so egregiously awful. And I don't think that Zahira was, and I don't think that Serena was either last week. And also, I felt like the win was a bit odd because this was the week, in my opinion, that Naomi greatly came into her own. And if she's not gonna snag a win here after being edged for so many episodes, when is she gonna get one? I love that Russell T Davies was there. Such a good pull for Drag Race UK. Though I wish that they could have incorporated him in some type of sci-fi acting challenge. Even had him for the sci-fi girl groups would have been fun. I know that he's not an authority on choreography or movement, but it still would have been interesting to have him in the sci-fi challenge. And this was such a special pull after Zahira and Kate had an emotional moment last week connecting about their love for Doctor Who and the science fiction universe, and Russell was a very fun time. However, the biggest highlight of the entire episode for me was when the girls walked in for elimination day and did the Blair St. Clair. Seasons without a Blair mention, challenge failed. So I'm gonna talk about the queens' progress in order of how I ranked them, similar to how I did last week. My top placement went to Naomi this week. I think she had an incredibly strong episode, starting out in the reading challenge where she was phenomenally hilarious. I'm gonna live with her joke that she said to Godland, "You may not be the dumbest person in the world, but you better hope that none of those people die." I appreciated that this mini challenge navigated around any potentially awkward or cringy reads and just didn't include those in the final edit. I don't think they're ever helpful for us to know when they bomb so badly that even Rue is like, And generally I found everyone funny, but Naomi made me laugh the hardest, and I loved her joke towards Mariah. This could have been a strong mini main week for her, and I think the opportunity was missed since she continues to be good. And then this diva is banging it out on the runway. Like, what does she need to do? As the winner of that mini, she does get to assign the two teams. One, she can make a group of 4, and one, she can make a group of 3, and she can choose to join either one of those. She wanted to align herself with the people who she thought that she would not only stand out with, but also soar with, and I think she picked the right people. However, I do want to say that I think of everybody in this top 7, or 6, including her.
It'll be 1 + 1 + 2 + 1, not 1 + 2 + 1 + 1.
Anybody would have been valid choices because they're all really strong. The only person I would have been maybe a little worried to work with would have been Kate, only because she's so good. Would that make me not look as strong? But Naomi held her own against Kate, and I think if you stack her up against the other girls, she was just as strong. I love Naomi's persistence in trying to capture attention because she's not doing it in any kind of way that makes her seem like she's desperate for it. She's just hungry for a win. And I feel like her time came already, and I'm worried that it's gonna be too late for her to snag a win since we're getting really close up and, plucking hairs to get to the finale. The runway category is called She-Vil Movie Villains. I love that this was essentially a cosplay runway. There have been so many cosplay queens across the Drag Race franchises, but I feel like the judges have become, in the last year or so, a little more comfortable with seeing cosplays on the runway, as long as they're elevated, and I think everyone did that this week. Naomi is portraying the Joker. I loved the manic performance of it. I wish that more girls were comfortable doing a show when they're doing their walk and not just being fierce models. The makeup was great. I loved her intensity. The textures on this are pretty sick. I love all the leather work that has been incorporated for the shoes. I like that sort of velvety fabric that she used. It's very luxurious. And then that neck ruffle is quite stunning in that orange color. I like that she didn't go for such a crazy green. It's a little more of a softer, almost minty kind of a green. And I think that this was a fantastic week for her, blending a little bit of that masculine and feminine and making it super high fashion and couture. Great week for Naomi. This is a super slay. Kate is in my second position this week. I think that she did such a great job in the acting challenge. I think that her role as the landlord, being someone who's kind of a polar opposite to her, I think that Kate did a great job at finding this sort of dark villainous place without being too Mr. Scrooge about it. She just found this fun, campy place to play in, and I very much enjoyed her performance. In the beginning of the week, she is talking about how her decision to not save Sminty was partially motivated by fear. She was afraid that if she didn't pick Sminty, something bad would happen. Whatever that was, and Sminty did say that she wrote in her journal, "Die, Kate, die." So I think she wasn't inaccurate in being fearful. But at the end of the day ended. And then she also thought, why am I gonna save this girl because I'm scared of her? Let's not allow my decision to be motivated by fear. And part of me understands that, but there was something a little wishy-washy about her decision making, and it seemed like she didn't want to be fully honest with what her thought process was. Especially after she said last week that she saved Mariah because she would have missed her presence in the workroom if she had gotten eliminated. Just 10 toes down on that. I really like Mariah. I've formed a good relationship with her, and I would miss her if she got eliminated by one of you. I didn't want to have that on my hands. It is interesting though, because the friction between her and Zahira started to rub together as Zahira calls out Kate's sort of hypocrisy for bringing all of the UK girls together in week 1 and asking, hey, can you shave my back and I'll save your back if it comes to that? But then that glass shattering almost immediately. And in Kate's opinion, there was no capital A alliance. It was sort of, oh, I'll look after you if it meets our values. But that's not what Sminty and Zahira thought. They thought that the three of them were cohesive, and that's no longer the case. And I think because of that intensity of the intro, maybe it wasn't a good week to give Kate a win, even though it felt just as valid as giving maybe Mariah or even Naomi a win. I do think that all the girlies are gonna have a big eyebrow raised towards Kate going forward. For her She-Evil movie villains, she is portraying Thanos, and I'm gonna be so real, I'm not a Marvel girly. My sibling Jessie shows me all of the cosmetics that show up for Rivals, all the slutty ones in particular, and every week during recording for the weekly podcast, we thirst over some of the guys that are in there, but Marvel doesn't do anything for me. I recognize this as a Thanos look immediately. My question mark is the bodysuit meant to be her flesh color? Because if so, it's no matchy to the face and the hands. And so I wish that those were more of that intense blue-purple color. I like the armor. It looks like a cosmetic in a video game. I love that it's draggy. I love that it's a gender swap. It looks super cosplay to me, so I would have loved maybe some rhinestones on it, but it was still solid and it's recognizable, which is important. It is a slay. Mariah is our winner this week, and for the first time in all the seasons that she has been on Drag Race, for the first time in what, 15 years, she finally got a win, and RuPaul laughed directly in her face when she said that. The hate that exists in this woman's heart.
A winning moment.
I thought she was super solid in the acting challenge. She was present, and I think her character translated through the screen. I don't have a lot of notes about Mariah. This wasn't a super solid story week for her, in my opinion. She kind of felt like a background player, so when she swooped forward and got that win at the end of the episode, I thought, where did this come from? It seemed to me like they were setting up Kate as getting yet another win, considering that she had such a strong storyline with Zahira, or that maybe Naomi was finally gonna have her moment since she won the mini. For She-Evil movie villains, Mariah is the iceberg from Titanic meets Rose. She says that Rose is the villain of that movie, and I am here to say, I agree. Honestly, Rose. She let that man die after she said that she wouldn't let him go, and then instead of being able to help literally everyone and offer some healing at the end of that film, she just tossed the heart of the ocean into the water, essentially discrediting her entire story. She is the most unreliable narrator because we don't know if any of this story is real. All of this could be manufactured in her brain, and Mariah spilled, and she should say it. Now, we gotta talk about the look, sadly. I like the hair. I think that Mariah looks great as a redhead. I think the camp of having this tiny little Titanic while she's got this big iceberg reminds me of something that I saw years ago. Katya was the iceberg, I want to say, and there were two people that were the Titanic, and Katya ran into them and the iceberg split. Like it's that level of kind of lunatic campiness that I enjoy, and it is so out of left field for Mariah, where we've seen glamour, we've seen ball, we've seen pageant, we've seen nightlife. We do not see camp from her, and this is an abnormal moment for her. Now, do I hate it? Kind of. I don't like the bodysuit very much. I wish that it was a little more extravagant. I don't like that it cuts off at the ankle and there's that like 4 inches worth of separation between where the hem is and the shoe is. I think that could have been a full legging, and then the shoe covers whatever seams are there. That really draws my eyes into it and bugs me. It's not much of a look, and when you don't have a lot to evaluate, everything that's there has to be perfect. I think the scale of the Heart of the Ocean is fun. It is just that level of gauche camp. But then the iceberg as the lip sync loofah is kind of just dangling there, and I wish that there was something a little more spectacular underneath it all. Where it ruffles, it would have been nice if that was a darker blue with a lot of rhinestones and intense color pops on there. And so I just wish that the scale of all of those extra pieces were bigger. This is obviously a play on the Paint Me Like Your French Girls, and it's just not pushing enough. This needed to be like a Shea Coulee level nude bodysuit where it is rhinestoned to death. It's so camp though, and for Mariah that's different, so I'm gonna give it a very soft slay. Like a super quiet soft slay, because I do think that the idea of this is fun and I get what it's supposed to be. I think her win could have gone to either Kate or Naomi this week, but I think they needed to set up Mariah as an endgame player, which I understand. Zahira is in my 4th position by virtue of the fact that she was on the higher team. I thought that her energy in the cold open was totally valid. I probably would have crashed out a little harder. That being said, I thought it was incredible that she then aligned herself with Kate in the acting challenge and worked as her scene partner, because I don't know if I would have been a big enough person to have done that. And I think she held her own. That freaking glossy lip on a 1920s silent film character was bananas. And I thought this idea of, I'm not gonna let her upstage me because I know this is where she thrives, was smart. I thought that she stood up well next to Kate, and it was kind of mind-boggling to me that she was bottom 3, because really nobody was bottom 3 in this challenge. This is future Jer. When RuPaul said that she didn't understand Zahira's character, I found that kind of ludicrous, because you have to be blind to not understand what she was doing. If you look at the way that she styled herself with her acrylic nails, with this glittery suit that she's wearing, and all of the makeup, the glossy lip, it is so clear that she is playing the poof, this fruity character that is very much in love with the landlord. I thought her character completely made sense, and her characterization completely translated through what she was trying to do. For She-Evil movie villains, she is doing a blend of Mystique and Scarlet Witch. Mystique was not a mistake. Again, I'm not much of a Marvel girly, so I don't really know that incredibly well, and maybe this is something I should have Googled first. I don't think Mystique and Scarlet Witch run in the same friendship circles, so I really don't know how close they are to each other. Maybe I'm completely off here. I wouldn't associate them together, but I like what this is. I think this easily could have just been one or the other, IMHO. And that look with the blue, I mean, she could have just kept it half her and then half of Mystique, and that would have been everything. That mug is so severe. I am obsessed with the way that Zahira paints, because she is mugged down. Here's my problem with what is going on with Zahira's edit. They felt like she could have added more to the character and that they didn't understand where she was going with it, which I completely disagree with. I feel like Zahira could turn that entire stage gold with her fingertips, and then they would say, we just really wanted you to deliver a pizza to us. Thank you for turning it gold, but this is not enough. Like, what more can this girl do? Naomi is out here fighting for her life to get a win, and Zahira is fighting for her life to not go home. It seems like Rue is adamant on getting her out of there, and I don't understand why, because she's been doing quite well in many challenges. I think that her look is a super slay. I think her performance was great. I don't think she belonged in the bottom. I don't think anybody belonged in the bottom though. That's the tough and tricky part. Someone had to be the 3rd position, and if it was gonna be anybody, it would suck to be Godlin, but I really feel like this should have been judged in teams. So that brings us to my 5th position, which is Godlin. I don't want Godlin to be in the bottom. I need that to be so clear, but judging this as teams. In the beginning, Godlin feels like Sminty went home too soon, and even critiques that she doesn't know what's going on in Rue's head that Kate got a win. That's me all the time. I'm like, what is this lady thinking? She was extremely funny in the challenge. I love the way that she was moving about. She was fully present and immersed in it and brought her unique godlindness to the challenge. And then for her She-Evil movie villain, holy smokes. She is doing the witch from The Witches. These prosthetics are sick. It's terrifying. It is so well put together. I love that red lip. A scene from that recently popped up on Twitter, so it's so funny that came up a couple of weeks ago. Like, someone knew, and they were affecting the algorithm to make sure that we were soft launched for this look. The nails and the hands are so good, but I'm not surprised. Looking back at Godlin's hair runway from season 3 of Thailand. Godlin does horror so well. And I'm not surprised that she knocked this out here because it's just as good as that one is. I love the frayed wig, how it is halfway back on the head. Like, it is such a great, accurate representation of this character, such a good cosplay. And then the textures are elevated too, so it looks luxe and expensive. My only thing is, I wish that she had kept on the face just a little bit longer, the Godlin face, and just done a little bit of a walk. Just like maybe 2 or 3 steps. I know that probably there were some textural things that were happening with the nose that she didn't want to leave on for too long because then it would start to poke out of the Godlin rubber face. But I always just want a little bit of that reveal to sort of stop my heart a little bit. When you come right around the corner and immediately take it off, I'm like, I didn't even get to luxuriate in the reveal part of this. It happened all too quick. But this is max slay of a look. Holy smokes, it's good. Fontana was very fun in the silent film. They critiqued that she was jiggling her boobies too much, but that was never a problem when Jimbo did it, so whatever. These things matter when they do. And I thought she was solid. Fontana's another person who did horror on her original Drag Race season. She did the twins from The Shining for her makeover challenge, which was brilliant in my opinion. And here doing Tiffany, the bride of Chucky, I loved her coming out and having all the smoke coming out from underneath her was so fun. I'm glad that they didn't give her that wild bat Theresa May edit where they were like, we can't see you, as they force edited more smoke onto the screen. I think she looks amazing. I think Jennifer Tilly would see this and love it. I love that necklace that says Fontana. The little props that she's got are nice. I like that pop of the plaid on the shoe. It's an ever so slight deviation from what I think about with this look, but I don't mind it. She made it Fontana. Super slay. And then Serena in the challenge, I think, had maybe the most difficult role. Her part was kind of small. In my opinion, she was kind of a parallel line to what Mariah was doing. Like, it had some humor in it, but it was meant to sort of be a little more mellow so that the wild character, that being the landlord and the husband, could be the ones who are sort of the comedic balance of the entire act. And for Serena to be the straight man, so to speak, I felt like her role wasn't as important as the others. I think she worked it out the best way that she could. I love that moment when they broke their silence and she got to speak. She was very funny. And I think her personality shone through in the very little that they showed her in the edit, because they did keep focusing on Godlin and Fontana. And on the runway for She-Evil movie villains, she is Mr. Freeze. Whoa, holy smokes. Literally not one miss this entire night. Mariah was maybe the only one who was a slightly lower mark than everyone else, but literally everyone killed it. I need more runways like this. Please, Drag Race, give the queens more cosplay prompts, because this, I think, is a great lane for them to explore their creativity and also show their versatility in being able to craft a character that is recognizable to us as the audience and then show their unique perspective in drag. I love the chrome. That ponytail is so draggy for this look. It is everything that I wanted and needed, and she also rhinestoned this to filth. That's what you gotta do as a drag queen. You gotta add more glitter, more sparkles. Glitter here, glitter there, you put glitter everywhere. And again, because everyone did quite well in not only the challenge, but also the runway, it didn't seem like this should have resulted in a bottom 2. With Mariah winning the Chippy Tea, she decides to give it to Zahira, her walking encyclopedia and Drag Race wiki updater. And I am absolutely certain that as soon as Zahira got back to the hotel, she was doing some type of Morse code to someone across the street to be like, update Mariah's wiki to give a win. And this is where it gets even weirder. They make Fontana and Serena lip sync to Crazy Frog. What in the Johnny? What the The two of them did great in this post-verbal lip sync as best as they could, but it's an insane decision. And it's been pointed out that this is now the second time that a Swedish performer had to lip sync to basically a post-verbal song and eliminate one of the Mexico queens. This happened with Phenomena between Vanity Vane and Galavado on Global All-Stars. Illuminati is Illuminatiing. Fontana put her whole fantussy into this lip sync. I thought she was very fun and engaged. Serena was giving unwell woman in an unwell lip sync scenario, and I can't blame her at all for any of her decisions, but what the hell was this? I'm so glad that drag can be whimsy, drag can be fun. This is something you would see in a nightclub and people would lose their absolute ish over it. I think the problem with this kind of lip sync song is that you need to be in the room for this to work. This is not something I think that would translate super well to a camera, because who do you focus on and which parts do you highlight? Where do you let the camera linger so that you get a good idea of what both performers are doing? Because this is a situation where you want to see both of them doing all the craziness and all the insanity, because the lip sync is meant to be insane. The first shot of rum started to really hit me when this lip sync started, and so I was giggling, but in the words of a long lost Drag Race hag,
it was weird as
I feel bad that Serena is out here in this makeup look. I feel bad that Serena's out here at all because she's such a light in the workroom. And after I made a post last week about how bright Serena is, Sminty even reposted it and said that Serena is one of the nicest queens that she's ever met. It just feels bad to see such a bright presence leave Drag Race, because I think that positivity is something that is long lost from the show. This idea of whimsy and fun and humor. We don't see that a lot. Next week is a duo challenge, and they're doing something that is called Fringe Festival. I don't quite know what that is referencing, so I guess we'll find out more. But I am positive that the guest judge is Lucy Punch. So excited that they got Lucy Punch up in this place. She was in a series of unfortunate events, and that's where I loved her. God, she was so inspired in that role. And I gotta watch that now again just for her. What did y'all think about this episode? What did you think about the structure of the challenge? And would you like to see something like this again? In my opinion, I think that this is a great vehicle for allowing multiple queens of different backgrounds, different humor points of view, as well as different comprehensions of English, to be able to coincide on one stage and all be able to perform at an equal level. And that to me is very important in a global all-stars or in a versus the world situation. Everyone has to be on even playing field, because if there's too much of an advantage towards one demographic in your room, it's not equal and it's not fair. And Drag Race may not be fair ever, but at least try and give the guys that these versus the world situations are fair and equal to everyone. That it's not just favoring queens that speak English as their first language, that it's not just queens that Rue has judged primarily that will get pushed to the end, that everyone has a fair shot. Just my own 2 cents. I wish there was a large enough budget that they could have done a celebratory top 2, because this didn't feel like the week where someone should have gone home. And I'm very sad to not see Serena here anymore, but I am looking forward to seeing what happens next and who is gonna snag another win. I'm hoping that Naomi will finally get one because it's her time. Let me know what y'all thought in the comments below. Thank you so much to my Extravaganza Extra members for supporting this page. If you want to check that out, that is right down by the join button. See y'all on the flip.